trying to get in the pill and it's not going through. You know why? Because God does not bless mess. And again, this reminds me, and for a minute now, it looked like he was, right? It looked like he was on top. He was doing good. But look, you see how it turned out. And this is what I think about when I think about the election and Kamala Harris. Like, yes, it looks bad right now, but I have to remember, even in the Bible, all the stories that we read, sometimes it takes years, but the good guy always gets justice. There's always a vindication. And this story, this Megan Thee Stallion documentary, it reminded me of that. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About Life with me, your girl Keidra. Oh my gosh, y'all. So I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I'm gonna keep it all the way real. I had to take a break off. After the election, after everything that went down, I really want to say I did not see that coming. I didn't see Kamala losing in that way. I'm gonna say that. When they first announced that Kamala was going to run for office, the first thing I said was she's not going to win. And I only said that because I felt like people already didn't like her. So I was like, why would they put her up in the front? They already don't like her. But at the end of the day, once I started to learn more about her myself, and once I saw how much like she was getting, it was like white women for Kamala, white men for Kamala. It was like all black men. It was all these organizations pushing her, giving her all this money, millions upon millions of dollars. I was like, oh, I said, my girl might have a chance here. She does have supporters because, for a long time, we thought it was just white women that were going to be the biggest opponent. Obviously men too, white men too, but we thought it was going to be that demographic. We didn't see the 50-something% of Latinos that were going to vote against her. We didn't see a lot of this coming. I mean, I'm not going to go in on the black men because at the end of the day, I think it was like 72% did vote for her. So it is mostly the majority. So I'm going to leave them alone because we have bigger fish to fry. But I did want that number to be higher. But I didn't expect for her to lose so crazy. I did not expect for those numbers to be, do you know what I mean? It's just so disappointing because regardless of how you feel, if you're on the Republican side or if you're Democrat side, it's not about side. At this point, it's about basic human rights and right and wrong. Donald Trump literally went on stage and simulated fellatio. That's who y'all voted for. Y'all voted for a man who simulated fellatio in front of a live studio audience. Y'all voted for a man who brought a comedian that called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage. Was it? You're voting for a man that wants to implement and give police full immunity so that they can do their job. You're voting for a man who has assaulted women. But what I realized about Donald Trump, and once I saw his campaign and how he literally ran like a teenage boy. As far as the podcast that he chose to go on, that part of his strategy was genius. I can't hate on him for that, as far as that's what helped him win at the end of the day. And he really went and spoke to let's just say it. He went where the uneducated go. He went where the immoral go. He went where the immoral go. He went where just kids go that are uninformed and immature. When I say kids, I mean like college kids, people that are old enough to vote. Angry men hang out on those platforms, those Twitch platforms, those online, those video game platforms, those Joe Rogan podcasts. It's all, he really served up a plate to men who felt disenfranchised, who feel left out, who feel unincluded. And even though Kamala came and tried to give some of those men, at least the black men, some shine with the initiative she tried to put through, as far as giving them $25,000 towards a new home, down payment, a $50,000 refundable loan for businesses. It wasn't enough for the broken, the hurt, the ignorant, the dumb, the uneducated, the left behind crew that Donald Trump served. And he served them a feast on a platter. And that's why he won the election. It's not because his policy was better. He didn't have any policy. I actually sat and watched a rally of him, unfortunately, the one that he did in Madison Square Garden. And all he did was talk about Kamala and just talk about obscene things and jerk off a microphone, and he's just disgusting. And if that's who they want as a president, then, you know, that's between them and their God. But again, these are people who don't have the highest IQs. Like we saw on the map, we saw that map that was all lit up in red. And I read something that said that basically the states that voted for him are the least educated. They do make the least amount of money across the country. So you see New York and LA steadfast. And it's very funny because New York is a very red state. I don't know too much about LA. I don't know too much about California, but New York City is what makes it blue. So I'm just, at first I was like, I don't understand, but I know a lot of liberals are moving to these conservative states. And I was wondering, like, why would you want to move to this conservative state? But now I understand it. And I think there's a need and a push for it, that liberals need to branch out more, because that's the only way we're going to be able to take back what was taken from us. And I have to say, I've been listening to a lot of prolific stories about women, which is why y'all are here. And Megan Thee Stallion, Martha Stewart, these stories that I've watching about women, these documentaries, reminded me, because I was so upset about Kamala, reminded me that the good guy does always win at the end, and that we will come back from this. The villain never wins. So yes, it looks crazy right now. I know it looks crazy. I know it looks crazy, but victory will be ours. I promise. Donald Trump will not get away with this. His friends won't. He is going to have to, there will be a judgment day for him and for his crimes. I'll just leave it at his crimes. I won't even talk about from a morality standpoint. We'll just talk about them charges. He will see judgment day for that. Again, it looks dark right now, but it never stays dark forever. And remember, at the end of the movies, y'all, the good guy always wins. Speaking of the good guy always winning, Megan Thee Stallion Documentary. Baby, when I say this documentary brought me to tears, I'm going to keep it honest with y'all. I'm not even a hardcore Megan Thee Stallion fan. I'm not. I don't love her music. I liked her last album. That song when she was like, it's her. So your friends, that's me. I like that. It was a couple of songs from her last album, I think in like maybe 22 that she put out that I really did like. But for the most part, I'm not a big Megan Thee Stallion fan. I just feel like she's immensely talented. I'm a fan of her as a woman. I'm a fan of her as a Black woman, as an entrepreneur, and as someone who's been through a lot. I love her from that standpoint, but I'm not sitting around saying, "Ooh, put on that Megan Thee Stallion," just because that's just not where my psyche is with the music I want to listen to. But let me break down the key points from her documentary that y'all missed. Go watch it or don't. I got all the information for y'all right now. So y'all already know, I got my notes. Born Megan P. in Houston, Texas. We already know that. So Megan grew up with her mom. It was just her and her mom. Her dad was locked up. And her mom had a very close relationship. She loved her mom. The women in her family were tall, beautiful, thick. So she grew up seeing tall, beautiful, and thick women. She was just used to it. But she would get made fun of at school because she was the tallest girl in the class. Y'all remember how it used to be back in like grammar school? Because, you know, girls were growing up so much faster than boys. The boys would be like shrimpy compared to standing next to us. So she would get teased a lot, and her mom would try to amp her up, and she thinks those are the beginning days of when she started creating an alter ego, something to separate from who she was, because she was tired of getting made fun of. But her mom was a rapper. She said her mom used to write raps and do all of that before she even went to work. My girl was dedicated. She was really into rapping, and she would just watch her mom, and her mom would battle, and she was just so inspired. So one day she just started rapping, and she just started getting really good because she wanted to impress her mom. I love her relationship with her mom, and I think that's so valuable, because what I've noticed, and this is just my little theory, y'all, don't shoot the messenger, but I've noticed that women who don't have good relationships with their moms are women who tend to not be girls. That's what I've noticed, because your mom's supposed to be your best friend. That's supposed to be, or your first friend at the very least. So I feel like when women don't have that, child, it's kind of doomed for the rest of us. They don't make the best friends. That's my little theory. I'm gonna leave that there. Anyway, so, you know, she started blowing up. She got to college, and that's when she met Kelsey. And or that's when her and Kelsey started getting really cool. And Kelsey was helping her with her music career. You know, Kelsey is her best friend that was a part of the whole debacle with her and Tory Lanez. Kelsey was helping her with her music career, putting her videos up on YouTube, really pushing her, really like being a cheerleader for her in the background, saying go, go, go. And if you watch her early videos, you'll see Kelsey was in them. Kelsey was always with her in the very beginning. So yeah, they're friends. They're in college. Meg is getting lit. Meg is doing her thing. Then her mom begins managing her, which is the perfect person to manage her, considering that her mom was rapping. So she's telling her about cadence, about voice control, about how to perform, teaching her how to dress, like, and encourage her. And I love that too, that her mom really encouraged her to be confident in her body, confident in who she was as a woman. I grew up around, or at least allowed her to be who she was becoming. I was raised by my grandparents. So for me, I don't feel like I could truly be myself because I'm raised by people who are decades older than me. I do love the fact that Meg was able to be the crazy, ratchet, young version of herself growing up. I think that really gave her that confidence, and that really helped push her into the limelight, because she could be who she was without any judgment. And, you know, I think at times it was interesting. Like, her mom used to be, you know, directing her with her twerking. It was a very close relationship, whatever. But I do love that if you're going to do that, at the very least, you have a woman that's going to be there to guide you. Because you know, when you're young, you're going to do what you're going to do anyway. And why I don't necessarily believe if you're going to do it at my house. Like, you know, some parents are like that. They tell the kids, oh, if you're going to smoke in the house, because I'd rather you smoke here than smoke outside. I'm not saying that I 100% love that kind of parenting, but I understand it, especially I understand it in this situation. And I think that's what helped her. I think that that's what helped her build her confidence and helped her shape into who Megan Thee Stallion was. So kudos for that, you know, kudos for that. So then her mom suddenly passed away. She has like a brain tumor, crazy. And next thing Meg knows, Mama's in a coma, and she loses her, and she's devastated. She's in her like early 20s. It's 2019, and she's literally at a really good point in her career. This is right before she takes off. She's already lit. We already know who she is, but she's about to take off, and you lose your mom. It's just like, she already lost her dad, so she's already experienced loss. And if you've experienced loss before, especially from a parent, the parent that's supposed to be your primary, it's the hurt and the pain is unimaginable. So yeah, she lost her mom, and she starts hitting a downward spiral. She starts drinking. She starts hanging out with Tory Lanez. She says it. She says she was drinking and humping, drinking and hunching. That was how she coped with losing her mom. She admits this. Tory just happened to be there, and like the opportunities he is, he slid his way up in there. And Tory had just lost his mom. So in a sense, they were bonding, but Meg says that he was a very close friend to her at that time. Now, apparently, Tory and Kelsey were hunching at this time. Now, this is something that I thought was interesting about the documentary, because Meg doesn't really get into that. She doesn't really get into the relationship that Kelsey and Tory were having. But, you know, from online and things that we've heard, it gives they were hunching, they were together, they were talking, they were doing whatever. And then I guess Meg said that she was so lit on a too lit night, Tory was just around and he ended up sliding in. She admits that. Now, she also said that she lied to Gayle King, because y'all remember when she did the interview with Gayle King, and she told Gayle that she didn't hump on him. But she admits that she lied because she didn't expect for Gayle to say that to her. She didn't expect for Gayle to ask her that. She's like, girl, we were talking about the shooting. But I do think she can tell her story however she wants to tell it. She still did not deserve to get shot, obviously. Some people are wicked. The people them wicked. If I didn't learn anything from this election, from these stories with Meg, I just talked about this. I'm gonna talk about the story with Martha Stewart. The people are wicked. Do you hear me? Wicked. Like, that's my little fake Caribbean accent. Don't mind me. People just get so envious and jealous. It's crazy. They're on their own detriment. Hence why we have Donald Trump as president. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, she's humping on Tory a little bit, and allegedly Kelsey was talking to him. So they all go to who we know as Kylie Jenner's house, who has never really spoke out about the situation. Shady. That's why I don't shade. Anyway, But all want to be all up. It's very much giving, like when they say with black people, like everybody wants our rhythm, but nobody wants our blues. That's what it's giving. They leave her house. They were lit. And allegedly they start arguing. Megan said something to Tory that really like takes him there. And she gets out the car. She's drunk. She's in a bathing suit because she doesn't want to deal with it anymore. And next thing she knows, we know what he says. Now dance, B. Pow, pow, pow. Starts shooting at her and shoots her feet. This is just after George Floyd. So the police, someone calls the police. Someone's in their house recording her. She's petrified. She's on the floor. And she tells them that she stepped in glass because, again, she's lit. She's drunk, y'all. I don't know about y'all, but when you're drunk, not that I've ever been drunk. I don't drink. But when you're drunk, I've never drank the devil's juice. No, but y'all know when you're drunk, you don't think straight. So everyone's like, she lies to the police. Well, she was drunk. Who's going to tell the police the truth when they're drunk and after they just got shot? I mean, it's safe to say that she wasn't in the right mental state. And that was her friend. And she probably felt guilty for what happened. And she didn't want to tell on him. But Tory told her himself because the next morning, we all know once you go up high off that alcohol, you come down. And when he was in that jail cell, that cold jail cell, after he got arrested, he started feeling real guilty and called Kelsey and was on some, oh, I'm so sorry. If you didn't shoot her, what are you sorry for? What, you went to jail. What are you sorry for? So boom. Yes. And also, and Kelsey this whole time, the thing about her that's really disturbing is, let's just say that is what happened. Megan did hump on Tory. I just feel like on some human decency, on some real life human decency, for them to be friends and for you to not tell the police that this man shot your friend, regardless of how you felt about her, it just speaks to your character and it just speaks to who you are as a person. Because unless someone did something extremely horrific to me, I can't imagine not at the very least being honest. And I think in the beginning she was honest. So by the time it came to the trial, she wasn't. And she said she didn't remember. And we know people say they don't remember in court as a way to get out of things. So we'll get to that a little bit later. So, then she's working through this. People are calling her a liar. Y'all remember the heat that she was getting online. Everyone's calling her a liar. The Baby, who she's worked with and did so many songs. And the Baby has not been as successful. I think he had one hit song since he was starting to work with Megan. After he started working with Megan, because we know he was doing a lot of songs with Megan. After he stopped working with Megan, he got canceled with that whole Denny Lay stuff. The Baby's been kind of quiet. We haven't been hearing from the Baby. The Baby brought Tory Lanez on stage to taunt Megan. Then Tory does a music video and he's chopping up horse legs. And then it says like slaughter, like it was just so messy. And then we know 50 Cent called her a liar. Meek Mill called her a liar. Drake called her a liar. And that's why I don't mess with Drake to this day. Because I thought that was just so corny. But Drake is going to stand by Tory, who's obviously another Canadian. That's when I left Drake alone. Because I just think that's so corny. When at the end of the day, we know this girl got shot. She didn't shoot herself. If Kelsey would have shot her, I'm sure she would have loved to say that Kelsey shot her. And it wasn't the bodyguard. So for people that act they don't know who shot her still to this day is crazy to me. But it's just, again, it speaks to the delusion. And it speaks to the low IQ people. Because only the delusional and the low IQ people say that Megan wasn't attacked by Tory. And that's just facts. Nobody that has any level of discernment, no one with a level of common sense, no one with a level of integrity, no one with morality would say that that girl was not shot by Tory, period. That's just what it is. And we look at the low lives who said that she hasn't been. We look at the Joe Buttons. We look at the, you know what I mean? All of these same men who are very quiet with Diddy. Remember that. Everyone has so much to say about Megan. She's a liar. She's this, she's that. But these are the same men that watched Diddy abuse women for years and didn't have the courage to say anything. So keep that in mind. But again, and those are the same ones that probably voted for Trump. But again, I digress. Getting back to my notes. Staying on focus, because we're staying focused. We're staying demure. We're staying cutesy on this situation. So yeah. So everyone's coming to her, blah, 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 blah. And my girl Megan is still climbing because God don't bless no mess. That's why she's still climbing. She's still doing good. She's still putting out music. She's still putting out hit songs, saying whatever you want to say about her. She's still climbing to the top, putting out albums. She's still doing good, right? She's not perfect, but she did not deserve to be shot, period. She starts working with Marianne Gibson. Y'all remember Marianne from Making the Band. And, you know, from just being a dancer and from being a dance coach and just being that girl in the industry. But we know Marianne is a little bit crazy because we saw her on Making the Band. We saw she doesn't play. And it was very interesting seeing their dynamic because I could imagine how we don't know what Marianne's dynamic was with other artists, but when we saw her on Making the Band at the very least, or when we've even seen clips of her work with other artists, she's very hard on them. Megan, she was hard on Megan too, but there were times when Megan had to tell her, like, no, stop playing with me. Like, relax. Like, I get it, you good. Don't play with me right now. So I love that for Megan, for standing up for herself and for putting her in her place, because we already know that Marianne gets carried away. So that was good to see. It was after her SNL performance. Marianne was getting on her about something and Megan had to tell her, like, chill. Remember her SNL performance when she cried when she was performing it, and she was crying because that performance, you know, it talks about her mom and it's like a letter to her mom. It was just a beautiful, heartfelt moment. I almost teared up. I almost teared up twice during the documentary. That part, and then I'm going to tell y'all which other part I almost teared up at. But yeah, so she basically, she goes back home. She's like getting some rest. And her home is broken into, which is crazy. She was robbed. One thing I noticed about this is she didn't talk about Party. And I thought that was very interesting because you remember she was with Party for a long time. And it was a hairstyle. If y'all remember when she was with Party, she took a really good picture with him. And I remembered that hairstyle in the documentary. I'm like, oh, that's when she was talking to Party. Am I the only person that remembers events in life based on how my hair was? Like, I could see a picture of my hair and I could tell you how I felt if the hairstyle was distinctive enough. I could tell you what I was going through at that time, how I felt, where I was, who was there, based on a hairstyle. Is that just me? Is that a black girl thing? I don't know, whatever. So I could tell, I remember that hairstyle from when she was with Party. So, but she didn't talk about him in this documentary, which I thought was very interesting, how she just, you know, kind of erased him out of her life. But they broke up after he was upset with her. I don't know if this is why they broke up, but he spoke about how disappointed he was of her. I guess he felt betrayed that he didn't know that her and Tori were dating or hunching or whatever they was doing, and that he was just so embarrassed when it came out, whatever. So maybe that's why she didn't include him. But yeah, she did not include him, which I thought was very interesting. But she ends up going on a little mental health retreat. And she says when she comes back from the mental health retreat, because she goes right before the trial, she feels really, really good. You know, she did a whole bunch of different therapies, and the therapist actually made her replay the trauma over and over again in her mind during her sessions. And she said somehow that really helped her get over it. That helped her really face what happened with her. And then we see her, she comes back from therapy, Then we see she comes back from the retreat, and it's time for her to go to trial. And she's obviously so nervous. There's so many folks out there saying, you know, we're with Tori, but there's also so many folks out there saying we're with Meg, and just talking about the whole tumultuousness of the trial and all the backlash she's getting online and just the hate. And she says when she will go out on stage, she didn't know who was for her and who was against her. And I always thought that was so interesting with celebrities, because I was like, why are y'all getting so hooked up with, why are y'all getting so caught up with what y'all see on the internet? That's not real. Those people aren't real. But for Meg, she really explained it, like, I don't know who really messes with me and who doesn't, because it was such a polarizing time. And then I think too, because we were home, it was the pandemic, we had nothing else to do but care about that. So touche, Meg, I get it. But yeah. And she says that when she got on that stand, she just had to stand up for Megan Pete. It was a full circle moment from when she was younger. She had to stand up for Megan Pete, and she had to say, listen, this is what happened to me. This is who did it. And she was really proud of herself. So she leaves court. She feels great. She feels vindicated. Then she has to go home and wait for those results. And I don't know how long that took, probably a couple of weeks, months, whatever. And when she gets that verdict, oh my gosh, that he was found guilty, y'all, the way I cried, it was so beautiful. Like, it just felt, she sobbed like a baby. And if you've ever been through something and just experienced justice, then you know how good that felt, to just feel like, oh my gosh, I went through all this for a reason and people believe me. And it was just such a beautiful, beautiful and intense moment. I felt for her. And I never thought she was lying. But in that moment, those tears, you don't fake those type of tears. Those type of tears, you don't fake those type of tears. So it was just so beautiful. It was a good documentary. It made me, I always had empathy for her. I always felt like she was going to be vindicated, that she was going to get justice. I was just happy that it played out in a way that we could all see. And as y'all know, Tory served a 10-year sentence, child, and his hairline is messed up, and his is balding right here, and his wife done left him, and they trying to get in the pill, and it's not going through. You know why? Because God does not bless mess. And again, this reminds me, and for a minute now, it looked like he was, right? It looked like he was on top. He was doing good. But look, you see how it turned out. And this is what I think about when I think about the election and Kamala Harris. Like, yes, it looks bad right now, but I have to remember, even in the Bible, all the stories that we read, sometimes it takes years, but the good guy always gets justice. There's always a vindication. And this story, this Megan Thee Stallion documentary, it reminded me of that. It was amazing. I loved it. If you watch it, cool. If you don't, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about what I said. Tell me what you think about these notes. Thank y'all so much for tuning into another episode of Let's Talk About Life with me, Keidra, your favorite journalist. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.